Do you think your rowing technique is actually pretty good? Probably is. You've probably got good basis down, especially if you've been using some of our previous videos to help you understand the basics of that rowing technique. But even experts make these 3 common mistakes. I see it in the gym a lot. I see it on rowers that have been rowing for a very long time. It is still very easy sometimes to fall into bad habits. Today, we're going to go through some of the biggest mistakes that I see using the rowing machine. The 3 biggest ones. Stick around to the 3rd because it is the one that I see the most often. Fixing these rowing mistakes, it could help you gain speed, it could help you gain efficiency, it could make your stroke feel more comfortable and it reduce the impacts on different parts of your body which you might be hurting without realizing you're hurting. Hi, I'm Francis Hight, a former GB rower and rowing coach, and I have seen lots of different mistakes over my time coaching various different levels of rowing. It is important to say here that these mistakes can happen even to the most elite level of rowers. So if you are making them, it's not a bad thing. But correcting them or thinking about them and ways to correct them, that's going to make your rowing stroke better. That's going to make you yourself and your body feel better, and you're going to be able to be more consistent overall if you can perfect them early on in your rowing career. Should we get started? Okay, the first mistake we're going to talk about today is the handle and the handle path. Every rowing machine has a slightly different geometry, which means that the handle is going to be coming in a little bit lower or higher, or the path of the handle is going to feel different. You're going to want, for consistency, to make sure that you are being as flat as possible on the drive, on the draw. What you don't want is the handle to fall down on the way forward and then come back up to you. And the other one we don't want is this on the way forward to go over the knees. So if you're finishing really low here, in order to get back to the front, you're going to have to probably lift it up. And then we are completely losing power through that movement there. Or in this drive here, you're losing it because it comes down, we're drawing down to the crotch level, okay? What we want is to finish just under the chest and sitting tall here, so we're not collapsed onto the back end. The handle should be just below the chest here. Not too high, you don't want to be finishing up in your neck, but you want to be here and not down here either. Why? That's a few extra centimeters. A few extra centimeters of drive, of connection, where you've held the stroke from there all the way through to here is further than here. If you're finishing here every stroke, you're losing this small amount of distance. And while that distance might seem tiny, it's maximum 10 centimeters at different points. Over every single stroke, over 100 strokes, over even up to 1,000 strokes, depending on whatever session you're doing, that 10 centimeters is going to make a lot of difference to that little bit of extra power that you're getting down on each stroke. It's going to make a difference to that last little part where you're still staying connected, your feet are still there, you're still holding yourself up, but that bit where you come into the final bit under the chest is actually really important. And the way to do that is by keeping that handle path really, really flat. So you can see if I'm holding up to my chest, it's pretty straight. It's level with the machine itself. It's not down at a different angle, and I'm not pulled myself up to a different angle. I'm holding myself to a nice, straight handle path. And that's gonna be the same when I repeat it going the other way. So my hands don't go out and down. Notice how I'm holding myself up and my hands go out directly in front of me. Again, keeping that handle on a nice, straight playing field. Out, and then even as I come forward, I don't let it drop down again. I'm still holding myself up all the way to the front. And then from this position, you don't want to pull down like that. You are making sure, again, you keep your body up and out through to the under the chest. So you see how that was a nice straight one. I'm going to do a couple of strokes here so you can really see that in action. So my hands go away, they don't go away, down, away, over, roll in, press through, straight. So if I'm doing a few, you can see that my handle stays on a nice path. Another point, if you're collapsing it down to here, so if you end up down here, right in the bottom by your crotch, then there is nowhere for you to go if you don't get your hands away quick. You could still get your hands away, but then your knees are still potentially going to get in the way. You want to make sure that if you're here, the hands can go over the knees really easily, so when they rise, they're not going to hit into the handle. If you're here and your hands still go away first, which obviously, as we know from our technique videos, is the first thing we need to do, you're still going to potentially get in the way. Can you see how we're always in the way there? So by being up here, you're able to get the hands away, clean, the body rocks, and the knees come up, and there's no connection and there's no issue. But if I'm going to do a couple of strokes bad, so you can see. If we end up drawing down every stroke, we're also not being consistent or moving effectively with the machine. What we want is to be efficient every stroke and draw up nice and high. So that is the first mistake that most rowers make, and it's all to do with the handle. It's a part of the machine that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about, but this part here needs to stay as much as possible at the same level as the machine itself. This is going to differ depending on which rowing machine you're using because of the geometry of the machines themselves. As a general rule, think about where you're pulling up to, and that's going to help you to keep your handle on the right path. It might differ on different machines, but if you're constantly thinking just under the chest, then you're going to be thinking along the right lines, and you'll be fixing mistake number one, or at least working to fix mistake number one. There's one final thing about that handle movement. If you've ended up low and you're trying to then bring it up here to the catch, you're potentially losing that first bit of movement, because the first thing you're doing is finding yourself in the right position. If you've stayed on the level field, you'll already be there. You'll be ready to pick it up on the balls of the feet. You'll be ready to press. So you're going to be more efficient and therefore cleaner with the rowing stroke. If you've ended up with the handle low, you're going to be trying to find that there first. And what might end up happening is that you end up opening your body off the front end before you've actually got the handle in the right position. And that's important because it's going to link to one of the other mistakes I'm going to talk about. Mistake number two. Now this is all about the leg drive. A lot of people don't finish the leg drive and are therefore leaving behind a little bit of their power. And as we've discussed in previous videos, the legs are some of the most powerful muscles you can be using through the rowing stroke. In fact, they are so crucial that if you don't get those legs down first, the body and the arms can't fill the rest of the stroke in for you. So the mistake that we're making isn't necessarily where you're picking it up at the front. Those are easier to fix. It's actually this final part of the drive here. This last little part at the back of the stroke there, a lot of people miss. You need to make sure that you're staying connected. And a lot of people miss it. The reason a lot of people have a bit of a problem, they let go of the power before they get to the end of the stroke, is because they're worried about locking their knees out like that. Really getting tense in the knees here, feeling like too much of a stretch under the back of the knee, feeling like their knees are in a bit of pain. But if you notice when you're rowing, you should never lock them out like that. You never end up with your knees in a locked position. If you are, you're also putting yourself in an uncomfortable position that isn't going to work long term. So what we're talking about here is making sure that you're consistent. So you're staying, you're picking up from the front, you're picking up the pressure from the front in the legs because they're the most powerful muscle. So we're starting at 90 degrees, we're picking it up here in these strong leg muscles, keeping our largest, widest part of the foot connected here to the foot plate. And we're pressing through, and the last part allows us, so this bit here, we stay connected, so you can see the muscles in my legs are still working, even in that last little part of the stroke, to hold pressure down to finish that bit of the stroke off. There. And my body and arms just come in, it finishes it off. I don't start to take it too soon. If I start to pick it up too soon, then I'm not using this bit of my legs. I'm not taking the strongest muscles, and I'm starting to rely on some of the strong muscles, admittedly, but not as strong as these ones. So we've got to make sure that you stay connected all the way through the drive there. And that last bit, then once that last bit of energy has transferred through the legs, it's then easier for the body to swing and the arms just to finish the stroke off. If you're tugging on the arms at the back, it means that you've definitely lost the connection with the legs. If your body starts opening too soon, you've also lost connection with the legs. You're starting to use bits of the body you shouldn't use until the end of the stroke. So what you need to be focusing on is consistency all the way through. If you watch my legs, I'm still connected, but I'm also not locked out. Notice how my knees aren't looking uncomfortable. My knees aren't outwards like that, down toward pushing too far down. I'm just connected all the way through from here to here. From here to here. And that last part of the stroke is so important, keeping that leg drive consistent. And that is mistake number 2. So the big thing about mistake number 2 is to not rush into the recovery. And it's linking now mistake number 1 and mistake number 2 together. So mistake number 1, as we said before, is keeping that handle not on that flat field. And also, if you aren't keeping it here, then you're probably going to lose the power in those bit of the legs at the end as well. If you start to pull down, then you're also not focusing on the end of the stroke well enough. So mistake number 1 and mistake number 2 tend to go hand in hand. The other important element of mistake number 2 is that because people are worried about their knees and locking them out in that position, they need to remember that rowing is actually a low impact sport. You aren't putting much pressure here into that element of the body. So from that front end, from here, while we are picking it up in the legs, and absolutely it's the whole element of the legs that are being used, it's not heavy into those knees. The knees are part of the pendulum allowing your legs to press down, but aren't actually receiving too much pressure into the joint. If it is, and if it's feeling like that, then you're probably doing one of the first 2 mistakes. And finally, we have mistake number 3. And this is the one I see most often. This is the one I see in gyms all around the world. Whenever I'm away, if I'm going to a gym, these are the mistakes that I see there. These are the mistakes I've seen with people I coach. Especially when you get a little bit tired, it's quite easy to start making this mistake. And this is opening the body from this position. So instead of allowing that body to be in that nice, strong position, getting ready to pick everything up in the lower parts of the body and then swinging through, as we should, so like this, legs, body, arms, what we end up seeing, the mistake, is that the body opens first. And this is quite a common one in gyms, that the first thing that happens is that the body falls out of that strong position. While it might feel like you end up in a position and you can still push with your legs, you're actually losing that transfer of momentum from the legs into the body that comes later in the stroke. If you open it from here, you've got nothing except the arms to finish the stroke off. So if I was doing this consistently, my power is not going to be as strong. What you need to be thinking about is the transfer from here. You pick everything up in the legs. It's the legs and the glutes that are the first thing that work. You press, then the body and the arms. The body swings through from that 11 o'clock place on the clock to the 1 o'clock. Think of your body like a pendulum, but that pendulum only comes in at the end of the stroke. It doesn't come in here. You don't open it first. You stay at the 11 o'clock. At that nice, strong, with that nice, strong back, you stay at 11, then we go to 1. Legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs, forward, legs, body, arms, arms, body, legs on the roll forward. And that position and that movement needs to stay consistent. If we do this, we're losing the transfer, the ability to transfer any power into the end of the stroke. It also starts to put pressure on parts of the body that you don't want to necessarily put pressure on. Because if you've opened from here, suddenly your arms are taking more pressure from that bit at the front end than they should. So you're going to end up with tighter shoulders, tighter biceps, tighter triceps. All of the bits up here are going to feel like they're working harder because you're trying to pick it up from the front. You're ending up almost pulling them out of position. But from here, you want to sit tall, legs and glutes, compress through, press, and then the body swings and the arms just finish it off. And that is mistake number 3. Now, all 3 of our mistakes that we've talked about in today's video can actually end up being linked together. This is what I see quite often as well. When someone has one of the things wrong, they end up doing the second or doing the third as a result of not quite focusing on the first. So if I open my body from the front, so if I do mistake 3, then I'm also quite likely to end up pulling the handle into a lower position. So I'm also linking mistake number 3 to mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, where we're losing that leg drive, well, that links entirely with mistake number 3. If I've already opened my body, I don't have that last part of the leg drive at all. I can't use it because I've already opened myself up to this position and now I'm drawing down. So mistake 3, 1, 2, they're all linked. If you're focusing on one of them and improving one of them, what you're hopefully going to be able to do is realize that the stroke is a little bit more complicated than we might think. And we've got some other videos that you can check out for us in order to improve your rowing technique. But these 3 mistakes, if you can identify them early, maybe get someone to video you on the rowing machine, have a look at what you're doing, compare it to some of the bad examples I've shown you in this video, hopefully you're going to start to be able to make some improvements. I'm going to do a quick recap again. So mistake number 1 is not keeping that handle at that nice level field and making sure that you're finishing here in that chest. So instead of dropping down or going over the knees or trying to find too much here, you need to just make sure that you're staying on a nice level field. That's mistake 1. Mistake number 2 is this last part here, losing the connection in the legs. So making sure the legs stay connected all the way through without locking those knees out. And mistake number 3 is instead of picking it up here nice and strong and allowing that transfer of movement through the rest of the body, mistake number 3 would be doing this, opening that body off the front. So small improvements to your rowing technique can make a big difference over time. Do let us know if this video has helped. Pop a comment below, like and subscribe to our YouTube Orgletics Rowing Machines. If you have any questions or worries or concerns about these mistakes, or if you just want to let me know if you've identified which of these mistakes you're going to work on, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again soon.